Okay, welcome to the latest video of my new series on taking the elements of horror from the Horror 101 series and kind of using those ideas in the creation of a concept for a game. So it's how to design a horror game, or how to conceptualize a horror game, really. But that's a much longer title. Okay, so the last videos we've done, we started with a basic story, which is a team of paranormal investigators going to a haunted mansion for a weekend. And from there, we talked about the characters, then the setting and the mysteries that can go into it, and what creates or where the danger comes from. And the last video was about information control. So now this video is about the dynamics and randomness of the game, which is something I love. So going back through the other stuff, the basic story is just the core story. That doesn't have any randomness or dynamics to it, really. The characters will get some dynamics from them by shifting around the POV of the player to different characters at times, but that's a different video. The setting, I want it to be a mansion, of course, a haunted mansion, but, you know, basically modular in construction, so that, again, I believe the example I gave on that video is that if there's 15 room units on the first floor and we did like 25 rooms, we're, 25 rooms totaling about 30 units total, because some of them will take up more than one unit, then the most you could ever have, or you would have as many as 10 rooms at one time not being used for any particular playthrough, just for the first floor. And then you could, for the second and third floors, you could have, individually 30 room units and then 50 rooms with however many units between them, so that, no playthrough would ever use all the rooms that you've created. And then potentially also have different layouts for the mansion and different themes for the mansion, so that every playthrough is going to be different. Okay, and then from there we went into the mysteries. So the randomness of the mysteries is that basically we don't have one core story. It's a haunted mansion. The core story is that you're there investigating a haunted mansion, but there is no one reason it's haunted. So we can have a backstory for every single ghost, okay, and different. I came up with 5 different mystery or larger mysteries that can be incorporated modularly. And, just bits and pieces can be seeded through the game randomly. And by starting from the concept that there is no one story that's true, there is no one truth, there is no resolution that we're leading to, there is no big reveal necessarily that we're leading to, that means that we don't need a cohesive story that goes through the whole game. We can have lots of different little mysteries that are seeded through the game modularly, that work together just fine, and can lead the characters, the player, to different places in the game, in the mansion, and uncover new things. But again, it's random, so every single gameplay, or every single time you play the game, it'll be different. You'll get different mysteries, different combinations of mystery elements, different ghosts, and stuff. Okay, danger. I talked about having a danger level slider that can be in the options, so that would be something that the player themselves would be in control of. But again, you create it to where they have control and they can get different experiences by different times when they play. Okay, and information control really doesn't have anything to do with it. So, some of the other things that you can do with randomality is having ghosts spawn randomly behind doors, for example, and they don't do anything until the door is opened, and then suddenly they're right there in front of you. And you can put that on a time delay, so it doesn't happen all the time. Like once every hour and a half to 2 hours of gameplay. And then maybe have it to where as soon as the player starts up from a save, somewhere close by a ghost spawns behind a door. Okay, and then we've got the random room placement each time the game is played, or possibly they move around during gameplay. And then we take the idea of modular, randomized stuff with the ghosts as well. That each ghost will have its own backstory, but that doesn't necessarily mean their appearance has to be the same each time. I mean, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can just create a really large group of ghosts and then, just randomly insert which ones are going to show up in each playthrough randomly. Or you can actually randomize the ghosts themselves, so you don't have to have as many design elements involved, and you don't have to come up with like 50 or 60 backstories. You can just come up with like 30 backstories, and then the ghost's appearance randomizes. Personally, I'd rather do just a really large group of ghosts. But, whatever is the easiest workload, really, in the time and money frame. The bosses, you come up with 15 bosses and you only need 5 through the game, then that means that you're only ever going to see 5 of them on any particular playthrough. So, random events. So basically, what I mean by random events would be like let's say you walk into a room in the mansion and the bed is made, okay, and then looking around, and then you turn around and the bed suddenly the sheet's been pulled back. Okay, it's and it doesn't have to be real obvious like that. That would be pretty noticeable. It could just be like the pillow starts up against the headboard and then is laying down. That is something that might not even be noticed, but it might register subconsciously and be creepy. But the way you make that random is that you work it all on probability. Just a percentage. The character walks into the room. What's the percentage that something happens while they're in that room right at that point? And you can key that to how long they've been playing. If they've only been playing 10 minutes, you don't necessarily want something real obvious to happen. So, what's the probability that something is going to happen? Well, you just, in the background, you say like 20% obvious, 30% subtle, 50% nothing. So let's say something subtle happens and we do the thing with a pillow just kind of seeming to fall over by itself. It's subtle, probably wouldn't even notice it, especially if they're just kind of scanning around for things. Something more obvious, the sheet being pulled back on the bed. Okay, that sort of thing, you can do it all through the game and just work it off of how long they've been playing, where they are in particular story chains that have been worked out by when the game was formed, when this particular playthrough was formed, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just a matter of working out percentages for everything, and then it either happens or it doesn't. So you can get lots and lots of randomness just by that sort of thing. It doesn't have to happen every time they're there, basically, and it doesn't. If you can have, there's hundreds of things you could do to a room, but you really only need a couple of dozen. Say 25 elements of each room that can do something. Which, it sounds like a lot, sure. But once you get into doing it, I mean, it's just a matter of tweaking little, mostly little things like the pillow just falling over. That wouldn't take much time to program in and do the. It's not like you have to do something brand new to make that happen. It's just a function of the pillow is in one state and then it's in another when they turn back towards it. Or a sound might play, or maybe a picture turns or is upside down, or later in the game after there's been some time for him to get creeped out, writing might appear on a wall. That's really obvious, but it could creep him out. That all these sorts of just little things over time, and it would be a lot of stuff, but if you have a bunch of different things for each room, again, like 20, 25 things, and it's all random what triggers, and if it triggers or not at all, that adds tons of randomity and dynamics to the game. So, there's that, and then we can also do random difficulty, which is you'd have your basic, easy, normal, difficult type of settings, but then instead of just having one particular setting for each of those, you would actually have a sliding scale for each one, to where if you put it on like normal, it might be a bit easier or it might be a bit harder, randomly. And then we can add in some more stuff that they can manipulate in the options, change in the options, like the ratio of survival to action. If you have it all the way down on survival, then you can't do anything to stop the ghost. All you can do is run away from them. If you put it all the way up onto action, then there would be a mechanic in the game to affect the ghosts and defend yourself. The default would be somewhere in between. Again, creep out versus adrenaline. If you have it on creep out, then it's going to be more of a slow burn. Not a whole lot is going to happen for extended periods of time to build up anticipation for when things do happen. If you have it all the way up on adrenaline, you're going to be playing more of a game where the ghosts are going to be popping out a lot, and there's going to be a lot of jump scares. Things are going to happen more often, and it's just going to be about pumping up the adrenaline. And again, the modular story elements, and then you also get into what the characters themselves do, triggering things. Uncovering one mystery might lead to something else. That's a triggered event. If they root down, dig down deep enough into one ghost's history, and this ghost happens to be one that can possess people, that might trigger an event where it possesses someone. Okay, whereas if they ignore that particular line of inquiry and investigate something else, that can trigger something else. So again, you can also make it, like I said, to where following particular chains of mystery can trigger other events as well, or going into certain rooms can trigger certain events at certain times, specific times. Perhaps if they hold a seance at midnight, that might trigger something. Whereas if they don't, it won't. It's just a matter of you create all these different scenarios and potentially triggered events that they themselves, the player, can cause to happen or not happen, which again adds lots of randomness to the game. So I think that covers that particular topic pretty well. Obviously, this would be a difficult game to make in some ways. Not really difficult in some ways, really difficult in other ways. There would be a lot of work on the back end. A lot. But the end result would be a game that would have tons and tons and tons and tons of replay value. I mean, it would be a game that people would be able to play for ages and ages, which is great value for the money that it would cost to make it and then sell it. And that just appeals to me. that would make it a game worth buying. And people are always on the lookout for games worth buying. So, again, if there's anybody out there that wants to back this project, or if Kickstarter, you yourselves, the viewers, could back this project, you know, we might be able to make it happen. Talk in the comments, send me a message or something. Not sure when I'd be able to get it right now, but you know, that's what's going on right now. That's that. But you never know. I'd love to make this game or a similar game. It'd be fucking awesome. But anyway, that wraps this video up. Thanks for watching. Do that upvote. Leave your questions, comments, ideas for other videos, or any of the thing like I said about doing Kickstarter or anything like that in the comments section. Share the video with your friends, colleagues, family, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, any other of those websites and social sites you might happen to be using. Subscribe if you haven't already so you know when I have other videos go live. I think that covers everything. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.